All right, I think I'll get started. So first of all, just wanted to say hello to people that are watching. People are still logging in. I mean, we're 1 minute ahead. I just wanted to say a few words about why we're doing this before we start doing questions. So as I'm sure many of you know, we just completed Bubble Tour in Paris and London last week. And it was great to meet people in person. Like, it's something we've done more this year than in the past. We were in Brazil, like locally, we're in Brazil in May, and then in Europe last week, versus BubbleCon that we did last year and the year prior. And one of my takeaways here that it's important for us to be in touch with the community and have people have a place to ask questions. And so that's why we're experimenting here with me being here. So my goal here is to do that regularly. We'll see how often, but I'm hoping it is more regular than less, depending on how this works. This is the first. And just make sure that people have a place to ask questions. Now, I'm sure there's going to be some questions about some product roadmap, release, and stuff like this. Just as a heads up, like, I can't commit live on the spot necessarily to timeline and things like this. So something to keep in mind. I think what's more important is to ask questions about where the company is going. Like, some concern may have is here's an opportunity to voice things so that we can have a dialogue. Let's try to not be too specific about the particular feature that is missing for your application or something, because I'm not sure I'd be able to give like an actionable response here. The big launch for us last week was our AI agent, like Bubble AI agent, which is now live for all apps that have been AI generated. We're starting to see quite some people test it and use it, so please keep doing so. I mean, that's my little ask today, is like, the more we get feedback from you all, the faster we can iterate on this. I think this is very exciting what this opens up, like the combination of our product that has been around for now like 13 years, like the visual editor that we have, plus the vibe coding experience, if you will, of being able to converse in natural language, French, English, whatever the language is, with the editor is really exciting. And so now we have to keep working to bring that together and to realize like the full vision here. So very excited about this. I see some people are starting to put some questions here, so I'll start looking. So the way it's working, we're doing that in a very simple way. Just put question in the chat and I'll see questions, and I read them and then answering. All right, so I'll go from top to bottom. Will we be able to develop mobile plugins once that capability is made available to everyone? Yes, definitely. The question is when we do this. Right now, we're really busy on two things on mobile, like in-app purchases. We shared about that last week. People that were at Bubble 2 could see their early experience with Nick at the mobile booth. The goal here is to get that out to everyone in the next, a few weeks, 3-4 weeks, something like this. A lot of cleanup just in terms of performance. I mean, as soon as you start launching a product to everyone, as we have in June, we started seeing different ways people are building applications. And so we want to make sure that we can run those applications quickly, they don't crash and everything. So we have a lot of polish to do in terms of reliability, run mode reliability. And after that, it's going to be the mobile plugin. I mean, it's definitely part of the vision to do that. It's also helping us because it makes that, we can have the community build a lot of the features that people are asking for. I'm not going to share a timeline here, but it's not years away. Like, it's a few months away. I'm working with Nick here on finding the way to make that happen as soon as possible. And once it's available, yes, I mean, this is going to be the same thing that people can do with web. There's a question that is more meta. I'll take it about how the idea with Bubble came up. I've shared that quite a few times, and Josh has done that as well with on various podcasts or various places. So I try to go pretty quickly here. I mean, we only have like a half an hour to 45 minutes. The way it came up is it's very much about what we're doing today, in a sense that we were in New York back in 2012 and seeing a lot of people that had ideas and couldn't just get the product off the ground because they didn't have a CTO or didn't have funding to hire an engineering team. And we just felt it was wrong. They were not able to build the product they wanted to build because they actually had a very clear vision for the product. They could do mockups. They could do, not workflows in the way it works in Bubble, but basically say when the user clicks here, this is what I want to happen. And they just didn't have the tool for that. And so we decided to build that tool. So we didn't start thinking, oh, we're going to make a no-code platform, or we're going to create something like visual programming. We were more like, we're going to empower non-technical founders to build a company and their product. And that became what Bubble is. And today, it's still very much what we do. I mean, in practice, we see people using that to do, not just to start companies for existing organizations, but fundamentally, it's fairly similar idea. It's a lot of people, mostly non-technical, who have an idea for a product and want to build it themselves. And the value is that they can build it without having to spend money on engineering, but also without the development cycle that goes with just having engineers in the loop, because it just slows down things. It's usually people that are very close to the business problems they're trying to solve, and they can build the product for themselves. Did we have funding? No, not at first. I mean, we didn't have funding for the first 7 years, and then we raised our first round, and after that raised another round. So a little bit of a non-traditional journey for a startup like us. I'm glad we did it that way, because as soon as you raise funding, you start being on the treadmill, and you have to, make the relevant progress to be able to raise a subsequent round. And I think for something like Bubble, it's very challenging to do, because you need it takes a long time to get to what I would call the MVP version, because an MVP for Bubble means people can build their own MVP others before they can start paying, and that takes a long time to do that. So I'm glad we didn't raise money too soon. Do you see Bubble eventually being part of the prototyping, UX design, framing space like Figma now that AI is here? Interesting question. Eventually, we want to be everywhere, right? Eventually, we want to be the standard for programming. And so if that's the case, yes. However, this is not the space we're aggressively going for right now. We really want to work harder and work hard as a team for the production side of things, like to be what we call production grade. And so at some point, yes, if you can do production-ready applications, you should be able to do prototyping, but it's not the key focus for us. Where I'm seeing the world going, though, if we do our job properly, is that prototyping of production should become kind of the same thing, in a sense that you just launch a prototype that happens to be something that then you launch to production and can scale. That's how the vision we have since the company, since we started the company. So I would love people to start prototyping on Bubble. I think they should. However, it's not something we're going aggressively for right now, as much as a Figma, for instance. What about having AI agents for existing products? Yes, definitely something we want to do. I mean, the reason we're limiting that to AI-generated apps right now is just a way for us to control how big the applications that the AI agent is working on are. Because if an application is really large, and trust me, I've seen some very large applications on Bubble. I mean, some users can have a lot of pages, a lot of workflows, a lot of everything. And it's just more challenging for the agent to be fast enough in responding. So for us, as we're releasing that to the world, we want to start with smaller applications, and so AI-generated applications are a way to do that. That said, the goal is definitely to be scaling that to everyone. I think there is a ton of value for existing applications and large applications, especially when you start thinking about having a new employee join, a new teammate joining and work in the application, trying to understand what something has built, something that was built by someone else. So we definitely want to go there. It's just about time. So again, the more we have feedback, the more we can iterate quickly for the current set of applications that are AI generated, the faster we can move into expanding that to other applications. Some people are writing in French. I mean, I read French, of course, but it's easier for me in English, though. Kelly's asking, I'd like to hear about how you think about feedback from prior users versus new users, and can you explain the system Bubble uses to prioritize that feedback? Complicated topic. There's a lot of things to say here. I'll try to be fast. It's definitely something that for a platform like ours, where we have some users that are prior users that are extremely engaged, but also a lot of new users, like thousands of people signing up every day, and we need to accommodate to both. With a product that is very open-ended, that can do a lot of things, this can be like we have to make some tough calls here in terms of what we prioritize. I would say for the first about maybe 8-9 years of the company, we were very clearly going for like power users. We were not trying to, that was also going back to the idea of not having funding. We didn't try to have as many users as possible. We wanted to ensure that people could build exactly the product they wanted to build on the platform. And so that was a lot of us. In fact, it was mostly me. I mean, what people don't know is that for 5 years, it was just Josh and I, so the team was extremely small. So me talking to power users every day, trying to understand what they were trying to achieve, what were the blockers, and trying to unblock them. And so we did that for the first 5 years with just the two of us. And then for between year 5 and year 8, we would still do the same thing with the team. And what happened after that is we started feeling that we wanted to grow in terms of number of users. The reason was that the market was just, the more tools were out there. And so it was not okay for us to just focus on power users, as we had been doing for the first 8 years. And so then our priorities started changing. And the truth is, I think we went a little bit too far here. And so now we are course correcting this. We've done in the past some initiatives like, Bubble Boost and stuff like that, trying to answer to the needs of more power users, but it's not something that we have been able to scale. So now we are rethinking this. So to Kelly's question about, how we are doing this, we're very much in fact, I was in a meeting like 15 minutes ago where we were talking about that very question. The current idea is to set up a special team to do this. That's something I shared at Bubble Tour last week, to keep taking action on this. The reason we care for two reasons. We care because our power users are very valuable to us. I mean, they use Bubble every day, and so we need to ensure they can use the product in a way that's effective and efficient. But also, it helps us acquire new users in the sense that usually power users are very influential. I mean, our marketing strategy to date, and that has been the same since the beginning, like 13 years, is extremely word of mouth. We run some acquisition, with Google Ads and stuff like this, but the truth is, we do well when our users say good things about us publicly, because that's how the social validation happens, and we have more and more people signing up and learning the platform and then launching products themselves. And this is something that we need your help. Here I'm talking to the power users. And so we need to make sure that power users feel supported the right way. So we're very much right now rethinking how we do this. So what I would say is that keep sending feedback. Now is actually a better time to do that than, frankly, 12 months ago, where I think 12 months ago, we didn't take action enough on those things. It's going to take a little bit of time for us to come up with the right thing. The one thing I don't want to do is to be do a quick hit. We take 10 bugs, we fix them, and call it a day, because I think this is something that needs to be solved in a more systematic, long-term way. And so, again, I was in a meeting like 15 minutes ago thinking about talking about how this should work. But what I can commit to is that we are making some changes here, and that this will happen. Whether it happens in 2025 or early 2026 comes down to some things. There might be some hiring to do, and that can lead to lead time. But our goal is to have a team that can work on this starting in January, maybe sooner, depending on how fast we can move. What yet to be released feature update are you most excited about? I mean, it's kind of half released because it's a beta, right? But the AI agent is extremely exciting to me. I think, finally, since the beginning, we started the company thinking, programming should be accessible to everyone. And the truth is, we have not completely realized that mission, because not everyone can get it. Like, I used to joke, I'm not sure my mom would be able to get it. And this is because, at the end of the day, programming is not super straightforward. And so we have an interface that can do a lot of things, and it's not accessible necessarily to everyone. And I think bringing that channel of like live natural language, whether it's English, French, like basically what LLMs can do, like the ChatGPT experience, is very exciting. And so I'm super excited to finally realize the mission that we have set ourselves to do, because of some technological revolution that we didn't necessarily see coming, like back in 2012. So the fact that now you can speak natural language to your computer opens up so many opportunities for us to make the product easier to use and adopt. And that's something that I find very, very exciting. And I think will change radically how Bubble is as a product over the next 12 to 18 months. And will change technology and how people create technology for good for a very long time. Do you plan to make Bubble's database efficient enough for apps with heavy data management and search, so we don't need external APIs and can lower workload unit cost? Yes, in fact, we are already doing this, like in a sense that half of our engineering team is working on the platform. And when we talk about platform, this is mostly database things, because that's really where most of the complexity is. And so we have a lot of people working on this. So do we have plans? Yes, we are working on this. Is that fast enough? No. So we need to work harder, hire more people, and make sure we execute well. It's challenging in the sense that every app can be different, and so it's not as simple as some other players that have a much more less open-ended way, that offer a less open-ended way to build applications where it's easier to optimize since the beginning. And I'm glad this question came up, because it's a way to share that with the community here. Is people building apps on mobile can build anything. That's the whole point of our product. Still today, it makes us different. It separates us from all the other no-code tools out there. And I would even argue other vibe coding tools, because vibe coding so far does not produce extremely complicated applications. So it's great. I'm very proud of this, but it does put a lot of pressure on our team to ensure that we have something that works for everyone. And so even though the team is very busy working on database performance, I can see that for some people, depending on how you design your applications, this is not satisfactory yet, and people rely on some other solutions for the backend. This is not what we want to happen. This is not how we want this to go. We do want to make things fully integrated and that work well. This is very much the mandate of the platform team. We're working hard at that. So yes, we plan on doing this, and I'm hoping we make a meaningful difference on this by middle of next year. Sorry, there are actually quite a few questions. This is great. How developed would you rate the mobile native app is? I mean, it's still in beta in the sense that we still have some stuff to fix. I mean, in-app purchases, which is a main blocker for a lot of applications, because since we cater a lot to founders and entrepreneurs, they need to be able to make money, and so we need to be able to support this is very important. And as I said, we're doing a lot of work right now on the overall polish. What I would say is that people are definitely able to submit applications, and they work well. It doesn't cover all the use cases yet. So payment is one thing. It's just for very applications that have a lot of going on. We need to improve things. I would give us till the end of the year, a little bit early next year, into getting to something that I think we'd be very excited about. And then this is closer to what I would call like GA in product. We call that GA, like general availability. After that, we'll keep iterating the product as we do for the web. But I would expect things to be pretty stable at this point. So pretty soon. Workload units are very outdated. They need to increase capacity and improve cost. When you start to have large tables, searches become very expensive and slow. Yeah, we hear that. It's pricing is something very delicate. We changed pricing in the past, and for people who have been around for some time, know that it's pretty stressful for everyone, in particular users, because as soon as you start showing pricing with not just like the starter plan price, I mean, that is a fairly easy thing for people to understand how that's impacting them. If you add $5 to a plan or whatever, that's fine. If you change how workload units are behaving, that can have various different impact on different applications. So this is something we need to do carefully. So we keep monitoring the situation here. I'm not going to make any announcement here today. We rolled out this pricing in 2023. So now it's been 2024. So about 18 months ago. We still have, we're monitoring and trying to see. Ultimately, what I will say that our incentives are aligned here. I mean, we want people to be able to scale on us. We need the cost not to be prohibitive. We just need this to be high enough and comparable to what other solutions would be on the market, so that people stay on us and that we can keep growing with them. We need revenue to keep investing in the platform, and I think our users understand that. So we're not trying to avoid that topic. It's just something that we do carefully, and we look at data, and over a long time. It's just like 1 month, one spike is not enough for us to take action. We need to see how this happens across tens of thousands of applications for various use cases and over a longer period of time. Will users be able to query the database in natural language through the AI agent? Probably at some point. I mean, at some point, because at some point I think AI can be done in multiple ways. It's not on the short-term or middle-term roadmap right now. Our effort right now on the Bubble AI agent is really to assist people when they're building and debugging the applications, not yet into the database manipulation. That being said, this is something that is on our mind, not for the short, middle term. Are there any thoughts on having data centers in Europe? You don't have this today. As a European located company, I daily hear customers having requirements on data storage in Europe. Yes, I know this is important. I'm from Europe myself. I read the news. I know data sovereignty is a big deal. The truth is, we started the company in 2012 when this was not a thing at all. And therefore, our infrastructure is built around the idea that we have one data center. Had we started the company in 2016 or 2017 would be different, or even after GDPR came out, I think in 2018, it would be different, because then we would have started with multiple clusters from the get-go. That would make things easier. That's why it's a significant piece of work for us, because going from 1 to 2 is a bigger deal than going from starting with 2 from the get-go. We definitely want to do this. I'm not going to commit to a timeline here. I know in the past we said we'd do that soon, and then the truth is, with AI and the emergence of vibe coding, our priorities had to change a little bit, and so we've made some adjustment to our roadmap. The goal, I definitely want to tackle this. It's not 5 years away. I'm not going to share a timeline, but it's going to happen sooner than this. I'm hoping to happen next year or very early 2027. This is top of mind. We're doing right now, some of the work we're doing on the platform team is paving the way to get there. So every work we're doing is actually helping us. Now, whether we actually kick off that last product, which is about setting up a different cluster, is not something where I can share a roadmap, but we're getting closer to this, and this is very much top of mind again. I'm from Europe after all, so I know what people in Europe are saying and how important it is for them. I mean, there are some questions that are kind of a repetition of the previous question. So yesterday, the support team confirmed there were issues with system logs, and there has been no proactive communication about this from the team. Why? I mean, I think there has been some communication on our status page about this. The team is currently investigating. Let me see where we are on this. I'll make sure the team has updating every channel with the latest status. It's difficult for me to give a response for one particular incident on this here, though. I have built an online quiz game where multiple people can connect to a session from their devices and answer questions with a final ranking. Do you think it will be possible to create games? I mean, that one, it depends a little bit what you mean by games. You can definitely create like some entertaining experiences. Is that the definition of a game? What I think Bubble is not necessarily the best at, if it's a platform game, like if you want to build like a Mario back in the day, like you would play like on some Nintendo gears. I'm not sure Bubble is necessarily the best tool for that. So it depends a little bit how you define games. What I would say, what Bubble is best at is to create like a data-rich web and now mobile experience where there is a lot of things that happen on the data side and the user interface that is highly reactive to that data. It's not necessarily the best tool yet to create like a completely new visual experience, which usually is what you have with games. That being said, with plugin editors, since you can write the front-end code, you can do any kind of experience, but that requires some coding skills. So it's not something that would necessarily happen right off the bat. How Bubble prioritize which product features to ship or scale first? Are mobile and platform stability still in radar? So, I mean, at this point, our user base is large enough that we have a lot of data and a lot of feedback from people. And please keep sending us the data. Actually, if I can have like one message, if I have one message to share here, is that it may have felt in the past that some of the feedback was going into black box and we were not taking action on it. So first of all, it's actually not true. We are reading it, but I think we were not good enough communicating that we're reading that feedback and using it. So me being here is trying to help with this. I want to make sure that people feel heard. And so when people ask questions, first of all, I'm here, but I'm also here to tell you that please keep giving us feedback. So how do we make decisions? I mean, this comes down to looking at all the data we have from people. So some of it is quantitative. How much are people using one particular thing? How many people complain about one thing or did one thing? Some qualitative. One thing I've been telling our product team for the last year. I was leading personally the product team for about a year. Now we just hired someone to be in seat, like Brian. Some of you have met him in London and Paris, London last week. I'm very excited about having him here. But what I used to tell the PMs that if you're not talking to users every day or one user at least a day, there is something you're not doing well. So there's a lot of like qualitative feedback we're getting from these interactions. And then it has to be, how does that fit with a long-term vision? And that's where it becomes a little bit more of an art. And that's why, being in product at a company like ours is a tough job, and you need very good people here, because there is a lot of a judgment call to have of, okay, we hear a lot of users asking about that particular thing. Does that fit with where we're going as a company? And so you look at the feedback we have, you look at the direction you're going to, and that's when I mean direction is, we want to be, a year from now, but also we want to be 10 years from now to make sure that we keep building toward that path. And then you reconcile these two things, and that becomes a roadmap. So in the short term, Brian started last week. So Josh and I are going to give him a little bit of time to ingest a lot of the information from the team, from the communities. That's why he was in London last week, to start putting together a more comprehensive roadmap. We already have one, but when you bring a new product leader, you want to give an opportunity to everyone to rethink some things. That's one of the reasons why you bring someone new on the team. And so we're expecting him to share that with us, like in the next, 1 or 2 months. And you'll start seeing changes next year in terms of how that changes our product roadmap. Would you consider bringing back bootcamps or having office hours for new people to learn? Very, very good question. Two things here. Would we consider bringing bootcamps? No. We tried that. We did this during COVID. It was a good experiment. I'm glad we did it. But the truth is, there are a lot of people in the Bubble ecosystem that do a better job than us at that. So I don't think our job is to be in the bootcamp business. It's not easy. If people in the audience are doing Bubble bootcamps, they know that it takes a lot of work. So that's one thing where I would rather ensure that we empower people in the world to do that locally in their own language. I think there are a lot of advantages to have, I'll give some shout out, Otto in France, for instance, having them to do bootcamps in French for French people. I think that works better. We have a lot of people doing that in Brazil also, some people in the UK, and of course in the US. So we still have a bootcamp page where we list these companies. And I believe that's the way to go. If there are ways, for some people in the audience are running such programs, we can empower you better through some like product tweaks or stuff like that to make it easier for you to teach Bubble. Let us know, because this is actually very important to us. So on that, no, we're not. Now, having office hours for new people to learn, this is actually something we're starting to reconsider. We used to do some of these in the past. It's not bootcamps. It's more of a way people to have a way to interact with our team live, to get unblocked. And so we're looking into options with the success team and the support team here. So I don't know whether we will do it. Like, there are a lot of things we need to consider, but that's something that we're looking at currently. Thanks for the answer. The tech debt user phase. September, October had many instabilities. Have you made up a plan to better manage this and handle Bubble/AWS outages? Yes, we did have some outages in September. A lot. The balancer, this gets technical, but one part of our stack of a platform is called the balancer, which routes traffic between the different servers that we have. Is something that is fairly old. Something that Josh built back in 2015, 2016. And so we're now evolving that to something new. And part of that migration, we had some outages. So not an excuse. It's because we're touching something to change it that we had some outages. So first of all, I apologize for that. And yes, whenever we have an outage, we do a postmortem to ensure that this does not happen again. Like every serious software company, I'm pretty sure AWS today is very busy, given what they had a couple of days ago, to ensure that this does not happen again. And so whenever that happens, our platform would put a postmortem, and usually that leads to some software changes to ensure this does not happen again. Ironically here, us upgrading the balancer is a way to avoid all of the outages. Not an excuse for these particular incidents we had back in September, but definitely something that is very top of mind. high level. And that's one thing that makes us a little bit different from a lot of the vibe coding tools out there, is that what we primarily sell is not the AI agent, is a platform. It's like people host everything on us. And we have to ensure that that scales well with usage. And so I consider it's unacceptable for us to go down. So unfortunately, it happens. And when it happens, we take that very seriously, because that's not something that we want to let happen. Now, AWS goes down sometime, and it's a pretty large company, right? So it does happen in software, and particularly hosting, that things go wrong. But our goal is really to, whenever that happens, to ensure that we do whatever needs to be done so that the same root cause does not lead to another outage. What advice would you give to someone looking to move from development to production for the first time? Are unexpected things to look out, plan for? Interesting question. The reason I'm posing is, and I kind of already said that a little bit, was a prototyping question, like whether we go into prototyping. Like, the whole goal for us as Bubble is that creating the application should be easy enough that you can go it's almost like a subtle thing when you go from development to production, because you can start having users very quickly. It's not like, you put like, $100,000, you give that money to a software development shop, they give you something, and then you launch it, right? So my recommendation here is to try to launch things as they go. Doesn't mean, going on Twitter and sharing your URL or trying to get press, right? It can be with a few trusted people, but try to get users as soon as possible, where you're still in development, but getting closer to what production looks like, because you have users that ideally not only your friends. I mean, be careful with friends, because their feedback is not necessarily the best one. But you start having feedback from real world and see how people behave. That's very much how we started Bubble, by the way. Like, we started Bubble going to tech meetups and onboarding users who were looking for technical co-founders, and telling them, why don't you just, we're not going to be your CTO, but you can use Bubble. And so we would work with them over time. And at first, for the first year, we maybe had only 50 users, but they were very engaged. My recommendation here is not to have many users, but have users that are extremely engaged using your product. I think now in SaaS, people call that, design partners or stuff like that. It's more for enterprise. But the idea is that you have some users and you're not going to charge too much. I recommend charging them a symbolic amount, because it ensures that they derive value from your product, but then you work with them. And so if you do that, you can get feedback, iterate, and increase the load on the different systems that you have, because part of what we mean by production is having more traffic, not too sudden, so that you can see how things behave before making like a larger media push or something. So yeah, if I summarize, try to get users as soon as possible, not too many, and work with them very closely. One thing I keep saying, in particular to product teams, that sometimes 5 users with whom you have like an hour conversation about their experience is better than 5,000 people answering a form or something like this. Are there any plans to provide some basic app that is more or less finalized with functionality? For instance, a job listing app with a database, login, admin panel to quickly launch an application. I mean, I would argue we already have that in some ways, even though we always need to improve with our AI app generation side of things. Like when you create an account today, or when you create an application, you can create it from AI, where you describe with a prompt your application, similarly to what a lot of the vibe coding tools offer, which should get you pretty close to something that I would say finalized. We always monitor the quality of the output here, and there is some work we do on our end to make it better. Also, when models get better, because we use some models that like ChatGPT, Claude, this kind of LLMs, when they get better, it's also improved. So whenever Claude goes from 4 to 4.5, for instance, there is a meaningful impact in terms of how the application looks. And so this will keep getting better. So yes, we don't have plans to provide this. We already are. Now we're working on making it better over time to ensure that ideally you don't have to change too much to something that works. At the same time, I very strongly believe that to create something that is actually truly valuable, it has to be custom to your needs. And so there will always be some customization that has to happen after the initial build, even if the initial build is finalized with some functionality, and that's why we're investing a lot on the AI agent, because it's a way for us. It's a way for us to ensure that people can modify the application to make sure that it's highly custom to what they need. And I'll read maybe one or two more questions, and I think we'll be done for the first edition of this AMA. I'm a passionate young tech enthusiast who loves Bubble and aims to be the best. What's my best path? Start my own business or train people to use Bubble in France? I mean, it depends really what you want to do with your life. Training people, it's a job. I mean, it's a teaching job, which I think is a very beautiful job. I was a full-time teacher in high school for about a year personally, so it's something that I think is really a beautiful thing. It's very different to do that versus starting your own business online. So difficult for me to give an answer here. When do you allow people to sort something, to sort repeating by I'm not sure I understand that question, actually. Will there ever be a different pricing structure if we have multiple apps deployed with Bubble, a better price? I mean, I'm not going to give a firm response to anything pricing related here. My guess is no. The reason is we had that before, where it was a per account pricing and not per application pricing. For people that have been on Bubble for a very long time, you may remember those days. I think we changed that back in 2018 or 19, I believe. Actually, no, 2017. And it was not working very well, because one thing that is happening in the Bubble community is that the ecosystem is very vibrant, and we have a lot of people being asked for people. And so people keep transferring applications to each other. And because of that, it makes more sense for us to price per application. That's why we made that change. And this is really a change that was the right move back then. So it's difficult if you do that to start having volume discounts when you have more than one application. This is happening on the enterprise side. So if you start having a lot of applications and you're talking to our sales team to be on an enterprise plan, then everything is custom, and that can happen. But on the self-serve basis, like two starter plans, two apps on a starter plan, it's complicated for us to start offering like volume discounts here. Are there any plan to introduce a native JSON field type and or support native manipulation of JSON objects directly in the editor? Curious to hear if this is something on your roadmap. Yes, I mean, at the more meta level and more, well, not meta, but more practical level, we have some challenges right now ingesting data from some particular APIs, like ChatGPT in particular, when we have started having nesting JSON object. And my guess that this question is actually talking about this, is manipulating some responses from API calls can be challenging with nested JSON. That is very much on our roadmap, yes. This is like, right now, it's not okay. The level of complication it takes to connect to ChatGPT's API, for instance, is not acceptable, and that's something I'm happy with. So yes, it is on the roadmap. We're currently working on the overhaul of the API connector, meaning moving it into a different tab, not being a plugin. We made it a plugin many years ago and never changed that, but that's not how it's supposed to be. I mean, API connector is so core to our product. And a reskin to make this more like standard with the rest of the editor in terms of design and UX. Part of this opens up two opportunities. One of them is reworking how we deal with nested JSON, which I think, again, address a lot of the question here, the reason why this person is asking this question. And also opens up some opportunities to do with AI. Like, I think it should be possible to just say, hey, I need to connect with this API. Can you add that to my app? The truth is, you can already do that with ChatGPT very well. You know, if you ask that on ChatGPT, you get the instruction, the curl request, where you can start that help you use that API. And it's actually pretty easy to go from curl to Bubble. And so that's something we're going to also invest on in the coming months. And I think we're getting toward the end. Is there anything in the pipeline to make chatbot integration easier with the database? Sorry, I don't have enough context on the questions. I'm not going to say something stupid here. So I think we're basically at at the end of this. So, well, thank you very much for this first. I'll talk with the team. We'll do a little bit of a debrief to hear. I hear some positive feedback in the chat, and I appreciate it. But I want to talk with the team to see how this is, this has worked, and then we'll decide for a plan going forward. Our goal here is to either in this form or like you tweak this a little bit, is to do that regularly. What is important? I mean, one of the things I'm planning on spending more of my time personally in 2026 is to be closer with the community. So in person. So I did more this year than I have done in the past with again Brazil and Europe. But also online, and that's a way to do this. What I want to make sure that people feel that they have faith in the platform to build the product that they need. And I know that for that, it's transparency is important, but also being able to provide feedback and having a direct conversation is important. One of the things I'm very proud of at a personal level, for the first 6-7 years of the business, where I was basically the community person in addition to like the engineering work, and I was on the forum a lot interacting with users, is we were able to create a very trusting relationship with our users that I think sets us apart from many other companies. And the truth is, I think over the last 5 years, because we were busy scaling the business and scaling the team, and it takes a lot of work that people don't necessarily see, people felt that we were not doing that as much. And so I want to get back to doing this. So exciting to do another edition of this. We'll be in touch to all the channels that we usually use to do that again sometime soon, either like toward the end of the year or early next year. Thank you very much, everyone. And yeah, I hope to chat soon.